People with repetitive strain injury very often experience a sense of grief when they realize they can't use their hands the way they used to. If that's happened to you, you want to listen to what grief expert and counselor Antonio Sosis has to say about the physical, mental, and emotional aspects of grief and repetitive strain injury.
There's also social symptoms, and social isolation is the most important social symptom. And of course, we have the physical symptoms. We are fatigued, we are depleted, we are not coordinated from a psychomotor standpoint, because our mental disruption of the common ways in which our minds work leads us to bumping into the same coffee table that we have been living with for 10 years. And after an important loss, we are hitting the coffee table all the time, or we're missing the exit in the freeway, even though we've lived in the same place for who knows how many years. Of course, there's real pain, physical pain. There's also a disruption of the sleeping patterns that is very important, which sometimes it combines, for example, with the pain that RSI causes, and sometimes you are sleeping and you accidentally turn into an old position that presses on your arm, and you wake up and you can't go back to sleep because you're so afraid that the pain is going to increase and increase. And so sometimes even the symptoms of RSI can piggyback with the symptoms of grief, or in the other way as well. And it can become a pretty complex situation. And so of course we tend to think that we are ill, we are sick, and we are not. It's just normal.
The thing about RSI that sometimes happens is when people think about doing the activity that got them into trouble, for instance, using a computer, playing a video game, something that they know led to the repetitive strain injury, even thinking about it can make the symptoms arise. And I'm wondering if this grief also has that same mind-body effect, where you're thinking about the loss and then it makes your symptoms worse. Do you find that happens?
Well, it does, and particularly because of one of the mental symptoms of grief is called negative anticipatory thinking, which is an inability to predict anything good happening. And so if you think about it, that number one, the brain doesn't have a lot of ways of differentiating between a real reality and an imagined reality. This is why when we are sleeping and we dream of a lion coming after us and we wake up, we are panting, we are sweating, we are feeling scared, and there is no lion. So negative anticipatory thinking, for example, in the case of RSI, means there will never be a time when I'll be able to paint again. My arm will never move in the same way. There's nothing I can do for my arm to feel normal again. And this can, in a way, trigger more thought-related, loss-related thoughts that will increase the symptoms of grief, and that certainly will be counteractive for the healing process of RSI.
So the emotional feelings and the physical symptoms are interrelated. It's almost like a seesaw in a way.
Absolutely. They are very interrelated. Yes. And of course, they relate to each other. And particularly in the case of RSI, because it is a repetitive strain injury, we can think that most of our defense mechanisms, most of our mental and emotional programming usually is automated. And this is one of the ways in which these defense mechanisms ensure defense, by not giving you the possibility of questioning them. So you naturally repeat them. Because of the repetitive and automated nature of the movements that had led to RSI, to break that cycle is very important. And to break the cycle of repetitiveness and automatism, you need to be present in everything you do. And this is called mindfulness in yoga. And so to repeat like a mantra, I am having a tea, I am talking to the computer. I am looking at my watch. So this mindfulness, the most important value of it is that it breaks the cycle of repetitiveness. Loss is painful, and pain is unavoidable. What we can reduce through appropriate grief work is the suffering related to loss. So this is why one of the second task of mourning that William Warden mentioned is to process the pain of grief, because grief is painful, period. Now, the suffering related to that idea of attachment, that is what we can resolve through grief work.
Now, if you want to learn about the 4 essential tasks of grieving, watch the really important video that's coming up next.